Hello guys and welcome to another video. Today, as I promised, we'll talk about Weakauras, how to make them, and how you can get mine Weakauras as well if you want to do so. With Weakauras it's really important to track a few different things, your buffs, your debuffs, and cooldowns on your spells and items. For buffs, there is two types of the buffs that you need to track. The proactive buffs, the buffs that you will get by using your spells, and that are deterministic, so it will appear whenever you want to use actually in your spell. And there will be the buffs that are coming in the form of procs, such as procs from your trinkets. Also, as those are coming from two different sources, from spells and items, we will need to track the cooldowns on those spells and items as well. And for the debuffs, we have two types of debuffs that you are getting from the mechanics, from the bosses. In those kind of debuffs I don't really track with Weakauras, I'm tracking with LVUI. As you can see here, it's usual player debuff tab that will be on the top right, below your buffs. Just moved right here, close to the middle. There will be the debuff, there will be the timer. I don't really need to track it with Weakaura. But the debuffs that you actually need to track with your Weakauras are the dots that you are actually need to take care of. Okay, so let's start. We will open Weakauras by typing /WA, and we will just remove this. You will not get that that tab that was from importing some Weakauras. It doesn't matter really. So whenever you open it, you go to new, you go to icons, and this is the way I'm doing it. I'm doing it with icons always. Now here there is many different kinds of Weakauras you can make. The only difference between them really is the aesthetic part. The actual practical part of the Weakaura will be the same. I prefer the icons, and that's how am I going to show you to make yours today. Anyway, tracking your buffs, let's start from the spells. So let's do it on an example of a bark skin. So let's go bark and cooldown. Now every spell has three components to it. It has cooldown, it has ready to use part, and active part. So for example, bark skin is on cooldown for 1 minute, and it has active part for 12 seconds. Okay, that's a really important thing that you need to know when you are making the Weakauras for your spells. Now whenever you create any Weakaura, you will have this kind of tab with a few tabs here. Now display part is always when you are setting up the visual part of your Weakaura, and the positioning. Trigger is what is actually the source of your Weakaura, what will make Weakaura trigger and appear on your screen. And load tab is maybe you don't want to show your Weakaura while not in combat, so you want it only in combat, only not in combat. You want your Weakauras to appear only when you are on a certain class, or even further, only when you are certain specialization, talent specialization, so you don't want to show your Boomkin Weakauras whenever you are resto, and so on. And this is how you can make sure for that to happen. Okay, now let's go back to making Weakauras, shall we? So for the making cooldowns for your spells, you go here on the trigger, you go type, you go status, and on status you go cooldown progress spell. Now in the actual name of spell you type the name of your spell, in this case Barkskin, and remaining time less or equal than 48 in this case. Now reason why 48 and not 1 minute or 60 seconds is because I want my all parts of a certain Weakaura to be on the same spot. Now since the active part of the Weakaura is 12 seconds, that leaves us with 48 seconds where I want my Weakaura to show me the cooldown part. Now for the display you need to go and trigger this cooldown tab here. The reason why you need to do this is if you don't do so you will only see the icon and you will not actually see the number of the number appearing on your Weakaura showing you the actual timer, and we'll go desaturate, which will make our Weakaura black and white as a sign that is on a cooldown. Now whenever we duplicate this Weakaura, we will make a second part called whenever it's ready to be used, and then now different part is in trigger. We just want to tick this, and what this does is this is making this certain Weakaura appear only whenever the trigger that we implemented above is not found. So as the trigger is cooldown on a bark skin, whenever bark skin is not on a cooldown, this will trigger. And for display we want to tick desaturate off, so it shows in color as a sign of a distinguished two Weakauras. So cooldown is black and white, not on cooldown, or ready to be used it's in color, and we have that visual distinguish way to distinguish those two. Now the last part is the active part, and we will duplicate this Weakaura once again, type active, and then in a trigger now this we will go to auras, and it will be actually the form of buff as I said on the start. So it will be player your buff, and then you type the name of the buff, in this case bark skin, and there it is. In the remaining timer we set 12 seconds, so less or equals to 12 seconds on a timer on a buff on a player called bark skin. And in display we already have this ticked off. Now what you will see is a little visual bug that I have because of using other add-on called button facade, and whenever I make a new Weakaura I just need to do this in order to fix it. But anyway, nonetheless we have our Weakaura for the spell. Now it's in color, it's there, we know it's ready to be used, so let's use it. Now it's in color and we have a timer, and that means that this Weakaura is currently active, or this spell is currently active, and we have the buff which you can see, but timer is off, and now it's black and white with the new timer that shows us that this spell is actually on cooldown. Now obviously you don't want your Weakaura to be right here, so you will move it wherever you want, and you can do so by click and dragging it, or you can scroll down on the display menu on each particular Weakaura, and you will have these two things right here, these two sliders, X offset and Y offset, and you can set it up here by typing a certain number to set it in different parts of the screen. You can play around it, there's nothing really to explain there. Now the different part between tracking your spells and tracking your item cooldowns and their procs is literally just a different tick here. So for example, if we go to this Weakaura for cooldown we made for bark skin, now we go in status again, but instead of cooldown progress spell we go to cooldown progress item. And what we need to do is we will need to delete this, and what you can do is type the name of item or hold your shift and click on your item, and that will appear here. Now you need to know what is the actual internal cooldown of items that you want to track cooldowns of, and in this particular case the cooldown is 45 seconds. But the different thing is that the active part is 15 seconds. That means we want to track 30 seconds of a cooldown. Now whenever this item is ready now, so yeah, let's write it CTS ready. So we go to trigger, we go to status, we go to cooldown progress item, and you just go there, and it will show us whenever this item is ready. And for the active part, it's the literally same. It's aura, it's player, it's buff, and you just need to type the name you need to type the name of, which I don't really know at the moment, therefore we will steal from here and type it here. Now we have our weak aura for the item. Let's proc it and test it. So we see that our CTS is ready to proc. Let's just proc it. For some reason we had, yeah, it's 12 seconds, I didn't change the timer, it's 15 seconds. So we see it's procced, it's in color, it's there is a timer, and now when timer is off, there it is, black and white, same thing with timer, we know it's on cooldown, and in 23 seconds it will be ready to proc again. Okay, now let's just delete these Weakauras to move them out of the way. And the last part that I need to show you what you need to track is tracking your dots or the debuffs that you actually care about tracking. So we'll go to new, we'll go to icon again, and in trigger now we'll go to aura. Now instead of player, which is for the buffs, we'll go to target, and instead of buffs we'll trigger weak aura by tracking debuff on the target. Now let's do that for Moonfire, for example, as one of my dots at the moment. So Moonfire, yeah, MF, let's just, yeah, okay. And what we want to do it is actually show that cooldown as well, and whenever I yeah, we have that visual bug again, but nonetheless ignore it. Whenever I'm targeting this, for example, there is no Moonfire here, so now there is, and now I can see in 3 seconds. I will need to refresh it again. Okay, now this is the very basic stuff. You can do many other stuff with it, and as you can see on my Weakauras right here, you have pretty much everything that you want to track. Now if you want to get these particular Weakauras, or if you want to get my combat rogue Weakauras, which many people actually requested, and it's the reason why I'm making this video, is that you need to know how to import them. And the way how you import them is you go to new, you go to import, you will get this tab, and what you need to do after that is pretty much go to the description, go to link there, and whenever you get to the page you need to copy everything which will look like bunch of rubbish text, import it here. You will get this drop menu here, you press import and you are ready to go. Now I won't import it because I have it already, so I don't make a copy. But yeah, that's pretty much how you make your Weakauras. Now my Weakauras here are set it up to very small details in which if I explain everything it will take literally hours to do so. But yeah, if you want to get them, feel free to do so, links in the description, and maybe consider subscribing for new content that is coming so far once per week. Anyway, good luck with your Weakauras and raiding or whatever you do in the game, and see ya.